are you? With the pictures are getting less and less on the wall out there. I am. I'll tell you what I am. I haven't been drunk in 8 weeks. What do you think about that?
That's impressive. They might kick you out of here for no mask, though.
Well,
Kind of strict on that.
I'll take my chances.
All right, all right. Forewarned is forewarned, I think. Can't get into a store anymore without one. Oh, they don't.
Here's ants. You got an ant problem. Germany.
Morning.
Commissioner doesn't wear a mask on that.
I'm gonna need
Give me permission.
You guys stay real close to me there in case you gotta tase me or something. You might say the wrong thing.
Okay.
Always sit back here and talk. Hold on. You smell good anyway.
Thank you.
I'd actually have something good to say.
There.
Actually, I did. I hope your boss is here to hear.
How you doing?
Doing well, how are you?
T. Larry.
What do you call me?
You look like a Pete.
I'll forgive you. I kinda like you, so I'll let you do it.
The cash is silent sign nine.
There's no.
Are you serious? That's incredible. Was that ever, did that ever happen before?
Tony, it's Mickey.
Hey, Mickey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hey, we're doing check runs every other week at this point.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. How have you been and the baby?
Good, really good. Yeah.
Paisley, right?
Paisley, yes.
Hey, girl.
Roll call. Everyone that's on the lines, could you please identify yourself?
Rick Mirabito.
Vicky Gutschall.
Ed Robbins. Arthur Bailey. John Lavelle. David Smith. Jeff Hutchins.
Ready? Okay. Ask you to please rise for our prayer. Pledge of allegiance.
Eternal Father, we gather today in this meeting to carry out the tasks that you've given us. Guide us in our decisions as we make them to help our community. Lord, we pray for those whose health has been compromised by COVID-19. We ask for their health to be restored anew. We pray for those who are suffering from economic impact, that you'll meet their needs temporarily, have them flourish when this is over. Our prayers are with the healthcare workers and other public servants in harm's way. May you wrap your arms around each of them. Give them safety and peace as they do their jobs. For our president, governor, and other elected officials, we offer our prayers to guide them to manage this challenge. Father, it is overwhelming as we watch the news each day, but you tell us over and over again in your word not to be afraid, for you are with us. We continue to stand steadfast in your hope, grace, and peace. Bless this meeting, gracious Lord. These things we pray in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning.
Tuesday, April 28th. It is 10:02 a.m. and we do have bid opening with Nikki Gottschall on the phone. Commissioners, I came downstairs before I received the printout for the list, so I have it listed on your agendas there. Nikki?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Nikki.
We have a bid opening for the Reentry Program Coordinator. We received two proposals. One's from GEO Reentry Services. The price for that one is $69,000 annually. And the second bid we received was from STEP, and that is $133,178.67.
Commissioners, this is Maya. Just know that I will be reviewing this in accordance with the prison and as well as courts, and we'll figure out, what the discrepancies are and exactly what we're getting for the services and costs provided, and hopefully make a recommendation within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
Maya, can you shoot a copy of the email to us of those? I'd be curious to look at them myself.
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When you speak into your, the ones that are on the teleconference call, could you please speak clearly into your phone, directly into your phone, so that it's more audible over our speakers here? Thank you.
Can you hear me, Commissioner Marabito?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
Okay,
that's better.
will do.
Thank you.
We have no cash requirement report this week. So we're going to move 5.0 with Roxanne Greco.
Roxanne?
Good morning, Commissioners. At the Sheriff's Office, we have Eric E. Wolfgang, part-time replacement deputy sheriff, pay grade PDS, $18.34 per hour, effective May 4th, 2020.
Okay, and that's the part-time position that replaces Mr. Farber, who went full-time.
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion on this personal action item? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carried 2-1.
Thanks.
Just a quick question here. The sheriff's office still, they're still obviously dealing with the entrance to the court. They're monitoring the TSP, and I believe they are serving certain like CFAs and so forth, isn't that correct? Is the sheriff there or not?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Chief is here.
The microphone,
Oh, the
chief.
chief is here, okay,
Yeah, Chief is approaching the microphone.
okay,
That is correct, Commissioner.
okay, all right, thank you.
And I believe the sheriff sent us a email this morning through the staggered shifts and what's been taking place. He's saved the county about $6,000 to $7,000
Correct.
just during this short time. So thank him on behalf of the commissioners for doing that.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I have to explain my nay vote, and it's not that I don't believe that the deputies and the sheriff's department is doing a great job, but I believe there's going to be a tremendous amount of consequences due to this virus. And there's going to have to be some sacrifices, especially when we don't know how far-reaching these consequences are going to be. We don't know how many people will be losing their businesses. We don't, and so I'm doing, my vote is not against you, it's the uncertainty of the future. And I pray everything goes well, you know, and we can get back to a full complement of staff, but until then, I think we have to be very prudent and frugal.
So, Commissioner Lucero, I understand your concerns about that, and I think we're gonna have to be watchful of what you point out. I'm a little, because it's a part-time position, I'm a little, tending more towards approving it, which obviously I did. But I think this is important. I mean, the funds this year were appropriated and funded and tax revenues come in, but next year, we don't know what's gonna happen. There are gonna be inevitably businesses that go out, there are gonna be people that are not able to pay their taxes, and I think you raised a good point. We certainly have to keep an eye open on that. And I think it's important. I think what we're saying is all department heads and row officers are gonna have to be cognizant of the fact that as we get down to doing the budget for next year, we're gonna have to make some hard choices.
Okay, thank you.
Seven point zero, Maya Toon has two informational items.
Morning, Maya.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is just our quarterly bid process for the prison and pre-release. The first bid is for food products, and the next one is for bread products.
Okay, any discussion on action item 8.1? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Just
you.
to clarify, I thought we were on 7.0, sorry.
I'm sorry, yes, 7.0. Yes,
Okay.
So those were just informational
yes,
items.
yes.
So we'll move on to 8.0 with Maya
Okay.
Toon. This was for the amendment with HRI Incorporated.
Yes, Commissioners, this is the second amendment to HRI Incorporated for the reconstruction of County Farm Road. The extension of the term is now until September 30th of 2020, and that's due to COVID-19. I would note that, we did make sure that this is in line and consistent with the governor's orders, as well as that HRI has a COVID safety plan on file as well for this project.
Maya, I apologize for jumping ahead.
No, no worries.
And any discussion on action item 8.1? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried, thank you.
8.2, Maya Toon. Approve act, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
I'll just let you read them so we don't interrupt each other.
Okay. This is an Act 13 grant and monitoring agreement. It's with Central PA Food Bank. It's to help meet the increased food needs that Lycoming County residents are experiencing as a result of COVID-19 crisis, and it's going to be in the amount of $10,000.
Okay. Any discussion on this item?
I think this is a part, and we probably should keep an eye on things in the future, because, we may find that additional help is needed.
Yeah, I echo those statements, Commissioner. I had stated last meeting that there are now 26 million Americans out of work. Pennsylvania is the second highest state in unemployment claims. And I saw last night that actually in normal times, 14% of Pennsylvanians are compromised. They have food compromise. They're compromised by food. So that's alarming. When you have 1.8 million Pennsylvanians out of 12.8 that go without food on a normal basis, that's alarming. And now you add a pandemic to that, and you can see what it's doing to our state and locally here. The food bank is really in need of help. So I think that it's a wonderful gesture that we're doing. We need to recognize this each year and speak to the local food banks what we can do as a community. Through our efforts bringing this to the attention of the public, last week in Torresville Post 104, American Legion made a donation of $5,000 to the Central PA Food Bank, which was wonderful on their behalf. They do incredible things each year with the community down in the Torresville area. And once again, it's just more another example of how generous they are from that Legion post. And there's many in the area that do this kind of donations and generosity. So we want to thank them along with the other people that are reaching out to help the food banks and the local restaurants and helping feed our community.
You know, we're fortunate that we had the money to be able to give to the food bank, but there are other organizations throughout Lycoming County that depend a lot on the generosity of the clubs. These clubs have gaming boards and devices, and they spread out a tremendous amount of money to our local charities. They are not open, and there are consequences for that, okay? The amount of money that some of these organizations generated from the clubs and the generosity of them seem valuable. So I hope that the governor, again, not that I'm promoting it because I don't gamble that way, but it is vital to some of the funding for these organizations.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, ask for a motion to accept action item 8.2.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Thank you.
8.3, Maya Toon.
Yes, this is an agreement with Richard Sarnitsky Esquire. It's to interview and hold hearings for mental health cases at various counties for the public defender. It's not to exceed $5,000 annually. This is a 3-year contract, which would be retroactive to January 1st, 2020, and would expire on December 31st, 2023. And this is part of their operating budget.
Any discussion on this action item 8.3? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
I'll move.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So carried, thank you.
8.4, Maya Toon.
This is a grant application to the Office of Justice Programs for a reentry program coordinator at the prison based off a 36-month duration in the amount of $210,000, which was the, I believe, the commissioners had said they were willing to designate $70,000 annually towards this position.
And Maya, this money, if we were to get it, would help fund the bid opening that happened at the earlier in the meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
And as we,
So just,
go ahead, Commissioner.
I was gonna say, this position is important in the sense that when we release people from prison, we want them to be able to get out and make sure they have, if they're on medication, have the proper amount of meds, if they don't have a place to live, make sure that we have connected them with a place to live so that they don't wind up becoming homeless and then getting into trouble. Make sure that they know what they're gonna do to find a job and where they're gonna go and so forth. And that's what this person is gonna do, is gonna make all those connections, help people make those connections, teach them how to do it themselves so they can function when they get out.
That's,
I do want to know, when I was doing the grant application, it is a requirement that you have to do it 36 months. So hence why I made it the $210,000 based off of that term.
to expand on what Commissioner Marabito had stated, this position, there was a grant that was provided to the community of about $10,000 to Dr. Richmond at Lycoming College. There was a committee put together of about 100 volunteers that met at Lycoming College on a bi-monthly basis over a year, and put together different subcommittees, employment, mental health, the different committees that were established. It was probably about the 8 or 9 committees that were established. Out of their hard work, they were able to establish that a reentry coordinator position would be needed for the community. That would be working directly with the inmates prior to their release. They would provide those services and put them in place that Commissioner Marabito had expanded on. And then it was a smooth handoff to probation so that when they were being released, they didn't have that 2-week to 3-week window where they were in hiatus, possibly having negatives influence them. So being directly involved in that, I was skeptical at first, but I saw how efficient it worked and how productive it was, how it did reduce violation hearings, and I became a believer in it. That person then took full-time employment at a local school, and the position sat open for over a year. So as we discussed replacing his position, whether to make it a county employee, whether to make it full-time, I spoke to both commissioners, and we came upon the decision that we should do this as a part-time position, and it should be contracted. So that way it won't be anything directly tied to county pensions. And that's the route we decided to go, put it out for RFP, and that's what we've done. We have 2 bidders on it, and we'll make a decision on what route we go. So hopefully that explains a little bit of the history. Hearing no further discussion, ask for a motion to approve action item 8.4.
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And Maya, there are gonna be a lot of programs that come out from the state and federal government. We are getting, or at least I'm getting, a tremendous amount of requests from the small business owners that are mom and pops, about, assistance. So if you see any of these grants that are coming up or programs, please let the commissioners be aware of them so we can directly tie them into the grant or the program.
Okay.
8.6, Maya Toon.
Oh, I think we need to do 8.5, sorry.
Oh. Okay. 8.5, yes, you're correct.
Yep. This is an agreement with Geo Reentry Services, LLC, for monitoring services for the Juvenile Probation Office. Previously, we were utilizing Centennial with the previous provider, but what we would like to do to make it more efficient, to reduce staff time, and to actually simplify the process is utilize Geo Services, as they will not only provide the units for this service, but also do all the monitoring, which will reduce staff time from the JPO office, where they currently do all of that themselves. And additionally, there is a little bit of a cost savings associated with doing it too, as there's no fee for shelf life cost
So Maya, as you introduce this, I would just like to add that currently there's 55 active clients receiving monitoring services over at GEO. Days in the programming overall they've been 150,325 days total in the program. The overall cost savings by GEO doing this program, the EM program, has saved the county just under $504,000. And this diversionary program that GEO has done overall has been cost savings of $4.5 million for the county as a diversionary program for the county. So I just wanted to add that. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
How many juveniles is it? This is for JPO, because JPO used to do their own electronic monitoring through that other company, right?
Correct.
How many juveniles are now on electronic monitoring?
I'll defer to Ed Robbins, he is on the line, so I'll let him answer that question.
Thank you, Maya. I can answer that. Right now, we have 9 juveniles on electronic monitoring.
Okay.
Not nearly the amount of the adults, but as Maya had mentioned, and Commissioner Metzger had mentioned too, it just rather than use a company that's based out of Anaheim, California, and we're doing all of the hookups, all of the paperwork, all of the data entry into the computer system. It just made sense to me to look elsewhere, and hearing really good reports from the Adult Probation Office, as Commissioner Metzger mentioned. Judge McCoy, Deputy Chief Matt Minier, and I met with them several times starting in the fall, and most recently about a month and a half ago, prior to the restrictions that were in place, just to see how it's going to fit. Would it be a good fit? And all of the players that I just mentioned felt it was a good idea. We went back and forth with the contract. It made sense for juvenile probation and for GEO. So that's kind of where we're at today. But we're not nearly the user as APO. It ranges anywhere from 4 up to 10, 12 at times. Certainly in these times we're doing more electronic monitoring than we would typically, but currently it's 9.
So it sounds like you pay only, or look at the contract, you pay only for what you use, whereas with the other companies you were paying presumably for not even being used. Is that correct?
Yes, and I can share with you the cost for those units on the shelf. Last month it was $74. The month before it was $40. The month before that it was $192. The month before that $264. The month before that $118. So it's ranging anywhere from $40 up to $250 for units that just sit on the shelf. And that's not how we want to do business. It's silly for us to pay for a unit just to sit there. So the GEO contract does not have that, and that's where the savings comes from.
And Commissioner, that used to be a real issue with our office in probation too, where you would have units on shelves that the county was being charged for. That's why, another reason why we went to GEO. And like Chief Robbins says, it's just a good business by not having them sit on the shelf paying for them when they're not in use.
Mr. Robbins, I take it that even taking into account that we're not paying for them, the overall cost must be less, right? In other words, the overall cost of the contract is less than the GEO's cost.
The Sentinel folks, how we work at Commissioner is the Sentinel folks give us an array of choices. The one that we chose was $5 a day, and that allows us every 3 minutes, for instance, to get a GPS coordinate read. I'm sorry, every 12 minutes. And the GEO contract, it's every minute. Yes, every minute, with a data report every 30 minutes. So I could do the same thing with Sentinel, but that'll increase the cost. So you're talking $5 versus a $7.50 cost with GEO. But the service that we're getting is not as good as what GEO has given us. We just have a better electronic monitoring occurring with the $7.50 per day GEO charge. And I chose the Sentinel one just to save us money, but it's not as good. In the long run, you're going to see a cost savings because of the shelf life or the shelf cost not being there.
Right, but it also sounds like you had to do more things yourself with the Sentinel, whether it was entering data, doing the hookups, et cetera. So you're paying a little bit more per day, well, you're paying about 50% more per day with GEO, but you're not paying those monthly charges for units that don't get used, and
Right.
you're getting a data report as opposed to every 12 minutes just getting a report.
Right, GEO's going to take over all of the paperwork, all of the data entry, and the hookup that we used to do. And our staff that do this the best, they can hook one up from start to finish, doing the paperwork, doing the data entry into the computer system in roughly 30-35 minutes. The rest of us, it takes us an hour to an hour and 15 to do it. Judge McCoy wanted us all trained and not rely on the one JPO who's the expert, quote unquote, in the office, which is Matt Brennan. So if Matt Brennan is not available, then you have everyone else already trained to do it. That takes, the rest of us, it takes an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to do the paperwork, the computer data entry, the hookup, make sure it works, because you receive a phone call back from Anaheim, California, just to confirm everything. So it's just a more seamless, more efficient, easier process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve action item 8.5.
I move to approve.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
8.6, Maya Tune.
This is an agreement with Dinges and Dingerton Waltz. It's to provide legal services for juvenile cases. It's in the amount of $40,000. I'd like to note that the previous provider of this service was David Hertz. He has since terminated his contract, so Dinges will serve as the replacement.
Okay. Any discussion on this action item? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 8.7, Maya Tune.
This is a non-disclosure and confidentiality agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania through the Department of Health. It's to properly track COVID-related cases as well as the confidential information to protect individuals associated with law enforcement, firefighters, emergency management personnel, as well as emergency medical services personnel. This is in relation to the information I worked with PEMA with last week to get everything uploaded and tracked so that we could be signed up for that.
Any discussion on this action item? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried.
8.8, Maya Tune.
This is an amendment with Scotilia Psychological Services, LLC, to perform psychological evaluation as well as expert services on an as-needed basis for the Public Defender's Office. This is part of their budget. The amendment is, there's many amendments as you look at Exhibit A. First thing is that the contractor is now revising the compensation to go to $35,000 instead of $20,000. They're also looking at the insurance portion instead of a coverage of $1 million, $500,000, and then also extending the term date from December 1st, 2021, excuse me, to December 1st, 2025. And then further down, you'll also see that the compensation rates have been revised as well.
Maya, we only use this on an as-needed basis, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, but it's someone we need available on the event that the public defender requested.
Correct.
To go from $100 an hour to travel to $225 an hour to travel is absurd. It's absurd.
Yes.
You know,
Very much.
if it were up to me, and I'm not sure if we have any other people out there that can provide this service, I'd send it back and say no.
Well, you know, Commissioner, I think you raised a good point. When you look at the jumps in the amendment on all of the items, the compensation, et cetera, what we can do is approve it so that we have it and ask the Public Defender's Office to search around for another company that's also able to provide the services. And I think we have to have it in the event that tomorrow we get a case where they need it. But
Is the
I think
solicitor
that's a
on?
good point.
Yes.
So if we were to sign this contract, does that bind us to just this?
It's not an exclusive contract, Commissioner, so
Okay.
you would be able to utilize other sources.
Okay, then in that case, all right, and I would suggest that we look for another source.
I am in total agreement with that. I agree with the travel expenses are excessive to say the least.
Well, here's another thing we could do, gentlemen. We could ask the Public Defender's Office to go back and see if they will change the travel costs. That we just think the travel costs are not justifiable.
Yeah, we could simply do an amendment to the agreement.
You know, on the various portions, I mean, that's one, maybe there's others we think, also. But we don't have anyone on the line from the Public Defender's Office, huh?
No.
Okay.
Typically, when you see a contractor shall, be compensated not to exceed, basically means that we're giving them a lot more work, $15,000 more of work than what was anticipated. And I'm not sure if that is the case or not here, but
Maya, do you know if the services were needed last year?
The part of it is, this is a 4-year agreement. So, right, Maya, this is going.
Yeah, but it's over a 4 year. Absolutely.
December 1st, 2025.
Yeah, even, right, 4-year agreement. So that may be why the amount has gone up too. Because the actual, if you look at the expert witness deposition testimony, I don't think that changed, Maya, did it? That stayed
No.
the same. The
It's an,
350.
yeah, it's an,
And the test interpretation just went up over 4 years, went up $25. Same thing with interviewing. It's the travel that's really,
okay.
I'll make sure I convey those concerns to Nicole, and I'll communicate all that to her, and we'll see what generates from that discussion.
See if we can amend the travel.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, a constituent just texted me and said, it's amazing, I'm paying $1.71 a gallon for gas, and he wants additional travel expense. Thanks for that comment, Todd.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept action item 8.7?
8.8.
8.
I'm sorry, 8.8, yes.
Yep.
I'll move to approve.
Commissioner, do you want to move to approve subject to further discussion about the travel cost?
Well, it can be, but we're not bound by this contract in any way, you said, so, yeah,
Well, the only,
we could put that in there. as well.
Commissioner, yeah, if there's no other service around, we may want to make it, contingent or, contingent on some, amendment
Okay,
of the
I'll
travel
change-
cost.
Commissioner Massar's motion said you'd have,
I'll change that motion.
okay, what, you want to state it?
Yeah, contingent upon, us
Reduction in
re-
travel.
reducing the travel expense.
Okay. Okay, that's his motion.
Guess it should be.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Item 8.9, Daily, Austin Daily.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have
Morning,
two
Austin.
items for you today. They're all interrelated, but I'll go through them individually. The first is an MOU between the county and the Susquehanna Greenway Partnership, outlining the duties of each party in our efforts of applying for this grant, as well as in the event we are awarded the non-motorized trail grant through DCNR. We'll be splitting responsibilities on the majority of the items, with the one difference being that Susquehanna Greenway Partnership will keep track of their time, and PCD will act as the reporting agent to DCNR.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Austin, this is, maybe you can explain what the signage is for and so forth. Yeah, so the grant, we're seeking $50,000 from TCNR. Basically, the idea behind the grant would be we would conduct a study or analysis of the existing signage and wayfinding devices in and around the Greater Williamsport area trail network. So that's Montoursville, Williamsport, going up the Lycoming Creek Bikeway from Old Lycoming. Basically, it will help people navigate from one trail to the other as we work to connect them, but also a portion of the plan will do.
Austin, hold up.
I'm sorry, what was that?
1 second. Your mic cut out on the.
Go ahead, Austin.
Okay, yeah, so basically it'll help people navigate from trail to trail, or people who are downtown in any respective municipality or near a trailhead in a respective municipality, navigate onto that. In some cases, being, say downtown Williamsport, it may not be intuitive to get onto the Riverwalk if you're standing outside the 3rd Street Plaza building. There's not really any way to navigate someone up onto the Riverwalk from downtown. So we just seek to. I was going to say this is both tourism development and economic development because it's gonna help our community and as a benefit, people who live here will also obviously get the benefit of it. Yeah. I mean, we've been really fortunate to receive some good feedback from the chamber, the colleges, local municipalities. They were all willing to offer letters of support for the project or for the grant application. They see it as a need, and so that's why we decided to move forward with this. Thank you.
I have a motion to accept action item 8.9.
I move to approve.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried.
So the second item is it's a resolution page. It's DCNR generated. It's just an item that is a formality on their end that we have to have approved by the governing board. The form just states that you or your organization is seeking to apply for the grant in this calendar year.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept action item?
I'll move to approve.
10.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Austin.
There's one more item.
Okay.
8.11
yes.
is Austin Daly.
Yep, it's the electronic authorization to apply for the grant. So like I said, we're applying for $50,000 in CCNR non-motorized trail funds with a $20,000 cash match in order to conduct a wayfinding signage analysis. We've also estimated that we will contribute the remaining match amount through PCD and Susquehanna Greenway partnership in-kind staff time. We've worked that budget out, and we're able to meet the other percentage of the match through staff time to keep the county cash match portion as low as possible.
Okay, any discussion on action item 8.11?
Yeah, the cash match is probably going to come out of Act 13. Did we discuss that, I think?
I don't recall. I'd have to look back. I don't know if I've been involved in that talk or not.
This is John Lavelle. We could ask the chamber to pitch in the 20 grand from the hotel tax because it actually is a great item for tourism.
Can you hear me? This is John Lavelle.
John?
John,
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I was coming through.
There you go. Yes.
I just wanted to remind the commissioners of our conversation with regard to this briefing item and the fact that we were discussing the Act 13 fund as the source of the cash contribution. And one of the ideas here in the future would be to approach the chamber on implementation to help with procuring, designing, and installing the signage in a phase 2 approach.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Does in-kind contributions work for this match, John?
Yeah, our attempt is to use as much staff time as possible to lower our cash responsibility in the grant, which we've done a fairly good accounting of, I think, in our preparation for submission.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
I move to approve.
One second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Austin. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Commissioners comment?
Yeah. As we move forward with the reopening of businesses, and thank God we're in that one zone that allows us to open up quicker. But speaking as a businessman, I'm not as a county commissioner. It was a devastating closure of businesses. And I would plead with the people that follow the CDC guidelines, that continue to stop the spread, okay? Be careful, because I know that if it starts to spike again, I'll close my business. We'll lose jobs. And I'm just one of many. Or we'll defy the order. And I'm sure there will be many that will do that, simply because that's all we have. is our business to survive on. I'm fortunate, okay, I'm 33 years in business, and I could close my doors down tomorrow. But I still look at my employees as my family, and so do most business owners. So, that's my request, you know, keep practicing, you know, according to CDC guidelines, and hopefully we get over this and no other spikes.
Commissioner Maravito, any comments?
No, not at this time. Go ahead, and maybe I'll have it. I'm not sure.
We were interviewed yesterday by Jim Webb with Webb Weekly, and it was a good interview. We stressed several points. One of the points I stressed is that, again, small business, you know, about how it doesn't make sense that our car dealers are shut down. And you have us, Idaho, and Hawaii are the only states that you can't sell a car. When transportation is an essential, it's a necessity, whether it's public transportation or regular transportation, you have to have a car. One of the car dealers was approached by 2 nurses. They needed cars. And fortunately that car dealer was able to loan some cars to those nurses. In the meantime, they were in that position they could do that. Realtors, you know, the real estate business, people trying to buy homes, places to live, that's a necessity. New York, Maryland, New Jersey, you can show a home, but in Pennsylvania you can't. So that's just two occupations and so many other ones. And I said that business owners are the most innovative, creative people in the world. And they don't need government telling them what to do. They just need the guidelines, the safe guidelines, so they can reopen, and then let government get out of the way and let them do their creativity to make sure they can stay open, such as a restaurant. You might have to move 2 or 3 tables out of the seating area. Bring the silverware out when the customer comes in. There's all kinds of things they can do differently to make those adjustments. But the business owners, they know best. They know how to run their businesses. We've taken the precautions. We've done the right things. That's why our area hasn't been hit hard, because our citizens were responsible. They did what they needed to do. So I'm for, instead of a stay-home order, I'm for a safer-at-home order. And safer at home means that we protect those individuals, the nursing homes, the hospitals, those populations that are more vulnerable to this virus, and we watch out for those in the meantime, just as we would during any epidemic or flu season. Obviously, you're not going to go visit somebody who's health compromised. If you have the flu and you're coughing and sneezing all over the place, you're not going to go visit them. So again, it's common sense. It's the right approach, and I would, as we move forward, and us North Central PA and Western PA being in those areas that there's been low cases, we can get things back open, and we can start to heal and prosper once again. That's my comments for today. Thank you.
I do have to say, I typically wear my mask, but it was a little loose and my glasses were fogged up. All right, I gotta be able to see.
And I would encourage people that wear masks, if they have glasses, please do not do that while you're driving, because your glasses will fog up. And the last thing is we want anyone to have an accident. And I have a mask that I wear when I go into the stores and in places of public. I haven't wore one in here because I keep my distance from people, and I make sure that it's very hard to understand people through a mask. I found that to be difficult. I've talked to several people in stores, and they have a hard time. The mask I have is one that you use for construction, so I probably have to get a different type of mask so it's easier to understand through.
You know, one thing I would like to point out also is, and we mentioned this last week, that let the county commissioners know if there's folks in the county, we mentioned on the food, you know, we got reports about the need for food, and we were able to take some action. And we have to remember that in rural Pennsylvania, we're sort of behind the 8 ball even before the pandemic, because our median household income is lower, and our poverty rate is high. I mean, for example, in Williamsport, the poverty rate's declined a little, but it's still about 27%, which means that for every one resident out of 3.7 residents, they're living in poverty before all this began. So it means basically you've got 7,661 people out of an estimated population of about 28,348 living in poverty. So now when you throw the pandemic on it, and you also throw on it all the other job losses, we have a real crisis that we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can as elected officials to try to address. So I'm sure that those agencies that are trying to help people are working very hard. If there's ways that the elected officials can just call us or email us and let us know. We can't change the world, and we're certainly trying to comply with all the legal requirements, but we do have to be cognizant of the fact, and that's not just in Williamsport. I use that as an example, but in other parts of the county, we have the same problems in Jersey Shore and all over in terms of people struggling to survive. So thank you, both, for pointing out the need to comply with the CDC guidelines.
One other thing we talked about with Mr. Webb yesterday was the election. We have a primary coming up on June the 2nd. We reassured our voters that the polls will be open, that if you choose to vote by mail-in, that will be an option. It's very secure. We explained the process of how secure it is, but we also explained that for those voters, whatever party you are, those polls will be open, that you can attend and vote in person. We are in need of poll workers, so if there's anyone out there who would like to volunteer to be a poll worker, we can have them trained. We do have poll workers that are seniors. They choose not to participate in helping this year, which is fine. We understand their concerns and their fears. But we will move forward with having an election, and the polls will be open for those that choose to show up in person.
And I'll add to that, I'll make a commitment that within a week, we will have a video that you can go to and look to see how mail-in ballots work. Okay? That is critical. Because whether you're a Democrat or Republican, they're all concerned about mail-in ballots.
Online, it takes about 2 minutes to fill the form out and get it mailed back in. If I can fill it out, most anybody can.
Well, it's not just the form, it's how secure is it, and that's the main concerns from both sides of the aisle. Now 3 sides of the aisle.
Commissioners, if I could add, it would probably be important to remind everybody that we will ensure that all CDC and state guidelines will be followed at the polling places for everybody's physical security and safety.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Public comment?
Come to the podium, please. State your name for the record.
Morning, Commissioners. Gage Wood, Williamsport.
Gage?
Gage.
Good morning, Gage.
Morning. I just had a few questions. Is there any...
Gage, could you just provide, this is hard to understand. There you go. Thank you.
Is there any headway in abandoning the Children Youth Chartwell booting lease, relocating that office yet?
At this point, we have not had any discussion on that. That was not a topic when we were starting to discuss this before the pandemic hit. We had some very preliminary discussions on it.
Okay. Then I seen an article about where the school districts are going to be upgrading to that P25 compatible system. Are these compatible, or P25 compatible radios paid for by the county tax dollars or the city school district?
Commissioner Mayor Beto had a conference call with one of the school districts. You want to elaborate on that, Commissioner?
Well, I think that all three of us are aware of the fact that we have, I had a little trouble hearing his question. I thought it was about radios. What was his question?
I said, are the P25 compatible radios being paid for by the county tax dollars or the school district floating the bill?
The P25 radios?
For that Motorola system upgrade?
I think he's talking about Williamsport School District, aren't you?
No, the county's not paying for Motorola radios to the school district. Is that the question?
Hutch, are you on the call?
I am, but I couldn't hear him well.
Okay.
He wants to know if it's the school district or the county that's paying for the P25 radio systems for the, how many schools?
You were some
For the school district.
No, I'm not aware of any radios for the school districts. The Department of Public Safety or the county's not paying for them. I'm not aware of that project at all.
Yeah, no, I think maybe there's some confusion. There has been discussion about whether or not, whether the county could do something to assist getting internet access
Tablets.
to some of the places so that our students who are no longer in school can do their schoolwork in certain remote parts of the county. But that's not the Motorola radio system.
Okay. And
Now,
lastly,
you know what it may be, Mr. Wood?
yeah,
It may be the school districts have on their own placed in certain locations on their school buildings, radio systems to allow internet access. For example, in Jersey Shore, if you drive to the school and you're in the parking lot, the problem, of course, is that some of the kids live far away from the school and it's not as easy to just get transported. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what the reference in the article was to.
okay.
School districts have done that on their own to try to assist people getting internet access.
Okay. And then, lastly, I often hear you guys talk about keeping the budget down and payroll, and then we have deputy sheriffs out guarding the recycling containers. I was kind of wondering what that was all about, and with crime being down and.
Well, crime is
I
not.
can't hear the question.
The question was the part-time sheriff deputy, and he saw the sheriff deputies at the recycling locations, and wondered why they're there. So go ahead, Scott.
So crime is not down. We speak to the district attorney every day in a conference call 1 o'clock, and he has said, actually, we're seeing a spike.
Oh.
If you noticed in the paper, there's been a lot of domestic violence. There's been 2 armed robberies. There's been a murder. There's been a hire for murder. And he's actually, there was a major drug bust last weekend with 3 people with heroin. So crime is actually not down at this point. It may have been down initially for a short period of time.
Yeah, and I was kind of assuming that because of social distance.
If you pick up the paper recently, there's been domestic violence. We had one incident where a gun was discharged with kids in the house. So these are all cases that are pending. With the sheriffs, they are working on different activities. We have them manning TSP right now to help with the assessment and prothonotory needs with the abstractors in that community, that population of people buying homes that have them in contract. With the recycling is a situation where we had to shut them down because we didn't know about the spread of the virus. We didn't know, there was a lot unknown. And we were very concerned about our employees and our PRC inmates being together, and someone would contract it, they would either take it back to the PRC building or an employee could possibly take it back home.
What's PRC?
Pre-release facility, which is our residents that are on basically work release. Work crew, be a work crew. So with those populations combined, we didn't want anybody being infected or risk of it. So if you've ever been to a recycling bin at Christmas time or the day after, it's crazy. So you think we have basically 5 weeks of recyclables collecting people's homes. So we knew it was going to be a very big burden initially. So we wanted to locate sites that were accessible to traffic, where you get in and out, where we spread out so that people weren't on top of each other. There wouldn't be littering all over the place until we got through the brunt of the recycling. We needed the sheriffs for the direction of traffic. I was there all 3 days, and we had people pulling in and out. Last thing we want is an accident. So they were very instrumental in helping people get in and out of their cars, the traffic pattern, so everybody wasn't coming at each other. And it ran rather smooth. I was there all 3 days at both sites. We collected 125 tons of recyclables. And you think about the weight of plastic and the weight of tin cans, and now glass weighs something, obviously newspaper weighs something, but that's a lot of tonnage for 2 sites. So next week we'll be in Jersey Shore, we'll be at the mall, and then we'll go back to Kmart, we'll go back to depending on the property, and then after 3 weeks, we would get back to normal, because the brunt of the recycling would be picked up. But the sheriff's office, DPS, which is Department of Public Safety, and recycling were all instrumental in planning and putting this together. It was the best plan going forward to help our residents. It was our #1 phone call that we got from residents. When is recycling going to be open? Now, also, there's fears that this stuff lives on materials. So as we collect this, it could live on plastic possibly up to 3 days. So we've taken it over to the recycling. It sits there for 3 days, and then it starts to get processed through the green machine. So we're taking every possible precaution. As it's getting processed now, we've brought the PRC inmates back, along with our recycling people. They're wearing masks, they're keeping the distance. So we're taking every possible precaution to get the job done.
Okay. Yeah, I had thought maybe they were just there because there wasn't much to do, and I was just like, wow, we really have law enforcement at the recycling?
Well, I'll add to Scott's comments. Received a lot of emails and phone calls, and only 2 that questioned why the deputies were there. The rest of them, and then once we explained it to them, they were happy, but the rest of the phone calls were very positive about the deputies being there, because they felt that was the reason it went so smoothly.
Yeah. I've gone there twice at the Penn College site, and I didn't actually get no guidance from the sheriffs. They're kind of grouped up with the Williamsport police, I think, just kind of chatting, and why are they here? But, okay, I understand. I was only there for 5 minutes twice, so I get to see how well it was really going.
Were you there the first morning?
Yeah, the second and then the last.
Okay. Just see the
Yeah. 56 tons the first day.
That's what, a third? More than a third of it? What'd you say, 150 tons?
125 tons.
Oh, wow.
In 3 days.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you
Being
coming
involved.
over.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Good questions.
John Sharman, Jersey Shore.
Good morning, John.
Want to thank you for opening up the recycling again, because recycling was costing me about a garbage can a week of what I had to fill up extra. I'm here for some comments about last Tuesday's meeting. I know it's been hard on the economy and everything for it to be shut down, but to compare with what happened in World War II in the economy and that to what we have going on today with the coronavirus, it's like apples to oranges. Suggest that maybe some people do some research on the Spanish flu from 1918 to 1920. People back then were required to wear a mask. Churches were shut down, businesses were shut down over that 3-year period. People protested, yes. San Francisco got hit. One of the biggest places that hit her the hardest because they wouldn't listen to medical people was Philadelphia.
John, can you speak into the mic?
I'm sorry. One of the places that was hit the hardest was Philadelphia in October. Part of the problem we have in this country is we have a president who has been totally unprepared, who doesn't want to take responsibility, who had been warned back in January with with briefings and that, what was going to happen. We were told, oh, there's only one. There's only 15 right now. This will disappear come April. And we were told by people like Rush Limbaugh, this is nothing but a common cold, like the common cold. We were told by the President of the United States that this is nothing but a democratic code, with it. We were told the other day, asking questions, this is, what do we do? The man that's supposed to be leader of this country, standing there and asking a medical person if we can inject disinfectants into somebody's system that it'll clear it up in a minute. I mean, President of the United States, I realize Wolf has made some mistakes along the line with things in some of the Democratic governors along with Republican governors, but at least they took the initiative to get out and take the lead and make some hard decisions. Instead of hearing the President of the United States getting up whining and crying with things and fighting with mayors and all this, and telling people to get out in states and demonstrate, free your nation. And it's all was aimed at Democratic governors. I would rather see people like Mr. Wolf err on the side of caution with things. And me being a former school board member again, I am appalled that anybody would criticize Wolf for closing the schools. For every one person that contacts the coronavirus, it will spread to 2. Now, do you imagine in a school district, with it, you got a bunch of young kids, adults, and everything else, how far that would go, and what the cost would be to close down the schools and disinfect everything? I know what it was like in Jersey Shore and what it cost the school district, because it had to shut the school district down for 2 weeks, beginning of the 2018 school year, 19 school year, to get disinfected because of molds in the school from. That is totally irresponsible to want schools open at this time. I get the impression with some people that life is precious until it is born. But when it comes to the economy, life is not so precious anymore. And if we had a president of the United States who got up and took responsibility with it, instead of worrying about the stock market and taking trips to India, and would have got this nation on the ball back in January, we might not have as many today. It's supposed to go away in April. Well, guess what? We've got 1 million people in this state, United States, that have contacted the coronavirus, and surpassing the deaths in this country that were sustained of all the years of the Vietnam War. Thank you for your.
Thank you, John.
It's time for Republicans to start standing up and quit being biased and try to make quit trying to make the governors and the Democrats the pinatas of everything.
John, you bring up a point about school districts closing down, and in the interview yesterday, we're looking for polling places, and maybe it's the school districts where we should have all our polling places. Close down the schools for 2 days out of the year. They have access, they have parking, they have security, and they have space. Okay, so maybe we should really look into closing down the schools for a couple days out of the year for our people to vote.
But do you realize that if you got kids and adults together in lunch lines and everything else, if one case of that broke out, what it would cost the taxpayers and the school districts for this? I would rather see the governors close them down, keep them closed down for things. But the other part of it is in 1918 through 1920, there were a lot of businesses in schools, churches, and everything else. One party has preached when the other party has protested about things. Oh, you're breaking the law. We have a president of the United States that's inciting riots. And yet, the right wing, people like up here and whatever, that have voted for this fellow, you better it's time to wake up and start looking at all sides and where the faults are.
John, I appreciate your calls that you usually make to my phone once a week. I'm glad to see I'm on your mind. And
I stand by what I said.
I would encourage you to leave your phone number, because I would love to call you back.
570-39.
No, not now. Just please leave your phone number when you make your monthly or your weekly phone call to me. I would love to call you back, as I do all our
My name's in the
constituents,
phone book.
and I would love to have a conversation with you. So
Anytime you
I
want
appreciate
to
your
let me
calls
know.
each week. Thank you.
Anytime. You want.
John, one thing that also is tied in with this whole problem of having had the schools open is that, in addition to the cost of disinfecting, is the fact that we know that children are often asymptomatic, but can spread the virus. So if we had in all of our schools a lot of kids going home, having become infected, going home to their parents and their grandparents, we could have had a massive problem on our hands in terms of people getting sick. And I think that was part of the concern with and the reason the governor did close the schools is that the potential damage, I think a lot of us, and so I appreciate your comments, and it is disconcerting and troublesome about as elected officials, we don't want to be giving mixed messages. What I've tried to tell people is we need to look at the science and we need to look at the math and follow what the science tells us to do with the problem. Just like we would if we had diabetes. If we had diabetes and the doctor told me, don't eat excessive amounts of sugar, but, relatives said to me, oh, you can eat the sugar, or the mayor said to me, oh, you can eat lots of sugar, I wouldn't do that, right? I would listen to what the doctor told me. And I think we have to try to, even though it's intertwined with the economy, we have to try to stay disciplined about trying to listen to what the scientists tell us. Because, in the end, I believe that they're trying to keep people alive and they're trying to keep people healthy. So I appreciate you speaking out about those things.
Bingo, Rick, you got it right off the top about the schools.
I couldn't hear that, I'm sorry.
John agreed with you.
Oh, okay. No, it's concerning to me about the schools because we have so many kids who can't get internet and who also are, not, I talked before about the poverty rate in Williamsport. Well, in South Williamsport, it's 15%. In the county overall, this means that right off the bat, we've got a whole lot of people who are struggling. And so now you take on top of that, they're struggling with housing, and you take on top of that kids being at home, and Commissioner Metzger referred earlier to the issues of domestic violence, and I think he mentioned that, and before people who were threatened like that could leave. They could go somewhere, right? Commissioner Metzger, now
Yeah.
they can't.
Yep,
Now they can't leave. And
You're
so-
also going to see rises in divorces because that's starting to happen now because people are cooped up in their houses.
Yeah. So it's important, I think, just as you're saying, John, listen to the science and try to be not, as elected officials, we try not to contradict them.
Okay, any additional public comment? Mr. Flower?
Morning, Commissioners. Todd Lauer,
Morning.
to the shore. I have a question. First, since there was no public comment in the beginning, can I have a little more than 3 minutes?
Yeah, I'll
A
give you
couple of
5.
this I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'll give you 5.
Okay, just a question here, first of all, about personnel action, 5.11. Eric Wolfgang. Now, this man's a retired state trooper, and is he going to get a pension out of this? Is there pension paid to these part-time employees? Because this man's already
No.
getting a
No.
pension, so.
No, there's no part-time, there's
So-
no pensions paid to part-timers.
Okay, and
So
why?
also no health care.
Right.
Why is the reason that we're hiring him? Because he's a state cop or what? Because I think
Nothing to
that,
do with it, he's there, we're giving the sheriff complement of what he had before. As we start to reopen back up, we're gonna be inundated with a lot of people coming into the buildings, and the demands are gonna be excessive. Just for instance, you go to a restaurant, when this is over, you're probably gonna be sitting and waiting for a table for at least an hour, because people are gonna wanna get out of their houses. They've had things they haven't been able to take care of for the past month. And that goes along with the county government. And you're gonna see a lot of people coming through. So we need to have our employees ready to handle this brunt.
Okay.
Just like the recycling, we saw a brunt of recycling, we're gonna see a brunt of people needing to take care of services.
but the question I kind of wanted to get at is, why don't we hire someone that doesn't have a job or doesn't have a pension already? Instead of hiring someone that gets a $70,000 a year pension, and pay him $18,000 a year to be a part-time.
This is a row officer who made a decision, he felt that was the best candidate, and we honor that. When they bring a recommendation to us, we honor they feel who's the best candidate.
All right.
And can I just jump in, Commissioner? Mr. Lauer, this is Commissioner Maravito. The other problem is they have to have certain certifications from the state relative to firearms. In other words, they can't just hire someone off the street who's doesn't have any sort of certification.
Yeah, I understand that.
And so, is Chief Ulmer still there?
No, we have one of the deputies in the back.
Okay, I mean, and he can give you the specifics, the Act 120 and Act, I think 144.
Which is the act with the sheriffs, what act is that? training?
It's the Act 14.
Act 14, yes.
Act 14.
They have to have that
So,
training.
Todd,
Yeah, and
Todd, part of it is finding people who have these, okay? Just so you understand, because we.
No, I understand,
all
believe me,
three
I
of us-
do.
All
That's
three
easy,
of us have
yeah.
encouraged, the sheriff, and I think the sheriff agrees, have encouraged him to hire people who, need a job, but he obviously can't hire someone if they don't have the proper credentials.
And he's done both. He's
Of
hired
course,
new
that's
people.
no.
Yes, and he's hired new people, he's hired people that are experienced.
Right, right.
In this
Okay,
case,
well, as long as there's no pension involved and this man's not padding his pension, I don't care.
no pension, no health care.
Okay. Right, okay, now, I'm gonna switch, or I'm gonna actually say something good here. I wish Sheriff Lusk was here to hear this, actually. Okay, I must change my tune a little, just a little here, and give some praise to law enforcement for the 3 Williamsport City police officers who had enough courage and put their job on the line to come forward and attempt to expose corruption and wasteful spending within the force. Officers Jody Miller, Dustin Reeder, and Don Mays. Now, when I start hearing and seeing that kind of stuff in the paper, I'm pro law enforcement when I see cops busting cops. Okay, now this makes me change a little bit here. I start seeing more of this, the corruption disappearing. That's good. I change my tone a little bit. Okay.
Mr. Lauer, I would remind you, that's a city, not county.
Well, whatever, but I don't care. If a crooked cop's crooked, another cop turns him in, that's okay with me. I like the cop that turned him in. Okay, I'm trying to maintain here. Okay, and I have a question now. Pat Bruno, this Mr. Bruno guy, I didn't have a chance to talk on this because my tune was firing through this stuff so fast. What is Pat Bruno's rate that he's hired for something here, a psychologist or something? But it doesn't give his rate of pay, and I would like to know what his hourly fee
Thought
is.
it did $300 and some dollars an hour.
Because I didn't catch it when Ms. Toon was going over it.
I thought I saw his hourly rate there.
Was that Pat Bruno?
Yes.
I don't think there was a Pat Bruno, I think it was.
No, this, here I have it.
Yeah, it wasn't a Pat Bruno.
I thought it was.
His
Were you thinking about,
position, it was $350 an hour. Interviewing was $220. It's different rates for whatever he's doing.
right.
But that's
It's
basically what it is.
Yeah, it's as
testimonials.
Yeah.
So it's about $3.50 an hour, correct? Okay. All right, now, am I still got time or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Got 2 minutes.
Okay. Now, I think, I read this in the paper, that the governor said that the county has the ability to do this, that that's not state regulated. So is the county going to offer an extension on property taxes? Since March to April, we have that 60 days there that we can pay without penalty. So since we've been locked down, are the county commissioners going to do something to help the taxpayers of Lake Coleman County by pushing, like, no penalties, no extra fees, just give us that 60 days, tack it on the end like the banks are saying they're gonna do to all these loans?
We've had a great deal of discussion about this. We've actually talked to other counties about it. We've talked about extensions to the phase period. At this point, we're not like the city where the city just collects their own taxes. We collect our taxes, but we collect approximately, I think it's 18, maybe 20 municipalities. So we would have to do a resolution, and each one of those municipalities would also have to do a resolution, because what we do affects their budget. They have budgets too within their townships and their boroughs, so they would have to do a resolution too. The problem is they're not meeting on a regular basis. We're gonna have planning, is in the process now of reaching out to them to see if they're willing to do a resolution to extend the phase period. So we have till May 20th, and we're working on that. So it's in the process to see if we can extend the phase period.
As of right now, though, the penalties and stuff are still in effect, correct?
There's no penalty.
There's no penalty.
Or the extra fee or whatever, the interest payment or whatever it is.
Excuse me,
In other
Commissioner.
words, up until April 30th, people get a discount.
Can I Commissioner, hang on a sec, could you,
Why can't we get anything?
try that one? Commissioner, hang on, we need you to repeat
Speak
that.
some more, Rick.
Okay. Well, I'm speaking right into the phone.
Yeah, I know, but can you hear it? Can you hear us
On
talking?
the top, we could.
Oh, you can?
In the back of the phone, we could. And
Okay, go ahead.
there somewhere, we could.
Could you
Well, I was
repeat? There you
saying,
go.
nobody is being penalized at this point because we're in the discount phase up until April 30th. So if you pay your tax before April 30th, you get a 2% discount. You pay it in May or June, you normally pay at face value, which is the actual tax. And then if you pay after June 30th, you're in what's called a penalty. But we had, and that's what Commissioner Metzger was saying, we have up till May 20th to decide whether we're going to extend that face period where you don't get penalized.
Anything else?
Is that it?
Howard?
We have one more thing. You guys are gonna like this. I'm gonna kinda dig at Mr. Mirabito and the Democrats here a little bit, because I saw in the paper when Mr. Mirabito made the comment, now don't take this offensive, Rick, but you said, donate your $1,200 check that you get from the government. Well, my response to that is, why don't you donate $1,200 worth of free rent to your tenants for the next whatever? You know, because I don't think people are gonna wanna give $1,200 up just like that. That's my
Wait a
comment,
second.
thank you.
Wait a second.
Well, you can talk, I'll listen to you, but I'm done talking. Go ahead, I'm
We didn't hear
listening.
you, Rick.
I said I don't recall saying that. I'm asking him where it said that I told people to donate their $1,200.
Yeah, well, I saw it in paper.
I don't know. He said he saw it in the paper.
Mr.
Or
Howard,
but Todd, what I'm not clear about, was it I who said it, or because you said you want to dig on the Democrats, or was
No,
it
it
some
said
Democratic
you-
official said it?
You, Rick,
1 second, Commissioner.
Yeah.
it said that you thought that some people have money, whatever, do the right thing and donate their $1,200, whatever this check is everybody's supposed to get. You know, just hand it over to people that don't have money or something. And I'm like, oh, whatever.
No, I don't recall
Oh,
saying
I have
that.
the article, I'll save it for you, I have it.
No, I don't recall saying it, but also I think people should do whatever they think they can do. I wouldn't tell someone just do it. I have no idea what people's personal situations are. You know, if people can help, they can help. If they can't, I understand that too, but I certainly didn't say that.
Okay, well, when I
But
prove
that's
you
okay, I just
wrong,
want you to know,
don't be upset.
you know, that I
And then,
don't call.
okay, are you done?
I'm done, if he's done, yeah.
Just to be fair and balanced, I give the President of the United States an A and an A+ for entertainment.
Yeah. Wow.
I just want to add to the $1,200 check, several polls I had seen taken nationally where that people were using the $1,200 check to buy food and pay bills, which is very alarming. So you can see how bad things are right now, so that's a major concern. Anything further?
I had no email, public comment, Jerry.
Jerry, anything? Okay, hearing none from cyberspace out there. No, any comments or questions? We will meet the next time. We've completed everything on the agenda, so there's no need for commissioners meeting on Thursday. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, May the 5th at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Scott,
Yes.
seeing the way the meetings are online now, and you're doing everything over